Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are immersing ourselves in a case that is, well, less crime procedural and maybe more art criticism. Macabre art criticism, I guess.
Definitely macabre. We're pulling apart the files on a serial killer the media dubbed the Michelangelo killer, a truly unique offender. He merged high-level forensic science with Renaissance art theory.
To create these horrifying, lifelike sculptures from his victims, yeah.
Exactly.
So this deep dive, it draws on a whole stack of investigative reports, some personal notes too, detailing the operation, the killer's bizarre profile, and the crucial partnership between Agent Sam Markham and Dr. Cathy Hildebrant.
Right, the academic specializing in Italian Renaissance art.
Our mission here is to understand not just the what of these crimes, but really get into the why.
Yeah, we need to decode the killer's process, try to grasp his underlying motive, and understand this intellectual framework he imposed upon his victims, turning their bodies into clues, basically.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. The first big, terrifying public display, the Bacchus blueprint.
This was the public declaration, really. The initial victim was Tommy Campbell, the wide receiver for the Boston Rebels.
Right.
Pretty well-known guy.
Right.
His body, along with a second victim, a missing young boy, Michael Winnick, was found staged in a topiary garden.
Not just any garden, though, right? It was at this wealthy estate in Watch Hill, Rhode Island.
That's it. And the setting was key, wasn't it? Campbell posed as Bacchus, the boy as his satyr companion.
And the reports, they really stress that the killer chose that garden deliberately. It echoed the history of the original Michelangelo statue.
Exactly. The original was first housed by Michelangelo's banker, Jacopo Galli. This killer knew his art history.
What jumps out immediately is the meticulous detail, almost fanatical.
Totally. Both bodies painted white, meant to resemble Carrara marble. Campbell's posture mimicked the statue perfectly. But the real tell, the artistic obsession, the modification of Campbell's body.
His penis was removed.
Yeah.
That detail is just chillingly specific. Why? Why do that?
It plugs directly into this historical controversy surrounding the original Bacchus statue. Art historians still debate whether Michelangelo originally sculpted it with some kind of modesty covering, or if that was removed later.
So by removing the organ from his human Bacchus,
He's inserting himself into that debate, making this grotesque, definitive statement on the art history.
wow. And achieving that pose, it wasn't just propping them up. The reports mention this strange internal structure.
They did find that, yeah.
Yeah.
An articulated iron bar. It ran up through the wooden tree stump base they used, then pierced Campbell's buttock and went up into his torso.
Like a literal internal armature.
Exactly. Treating the body like it was just material, a dense block. This wasn't typical criminal posing. This was more like engineering dealing with mass and weight.
And the most personal element of the crime was right there too, wasn't it? A message?
Carved into the base. For Dr. Hildebrant.
And that dedication pulls Dr. Cathy Hildebrant, the Brown University professor, right into the middle of it all.
Because the killer was addressing her directly, referencing her specific work on Michelangelo.
Her book, Slumbering in the Stone. That title immediately caught the police attention. But why that book? What's the theory there?
Okay, so this is the crucial intellectual clue. Slumbering in the Stone, it refers to Michelangelo's famous belief, right? That the perfect figure, the complete form, it already exists inside the marble block.
And the sculptor's job isn't to create, but to release it, free the figure from the stone.
To awaken it from its slumber, yeah.
So the killer sees his victims not as people he's murdering, but as raw material that he's liberating, awakening.
Precisely. The dedication was a demand. He wanted recognition from the one person he thought truly understood his intellectual framework.
And that internal armature they found, that wasn't just for posing. It was the first sign this killer was using some kind of advanced scientific process.
Way beyond anything police had encountered before. Which brings us to the really unique MO, plastination.
Right. This isn't something you just, pick up watching crime shows.
No, this is, well, it's almost mad science. Or rather, a highly specialized medical process, but adapted for artistic pathology. Plastination, famously developed by Dr. Gunther von Hagens.
Where you replace the body's water and fats with polymers, turn tissue into basically hard plastic.
Right, and it normally takes months, maybe even a year, under strict lab conditions.
Which is what's so wild here. The sculptor adapted it. He clearly spent years perfecting this.
The FBI estimated, 800 to 1,200 man-hours per sculpture? Something like that?
That's incredible.
And he's sped it up, apparently using these things called conductor tubes, and even hollowing out torsos sometimes, to accelerate the chemical replacement.
When you think about the commitment, the specialized equipment, those vacuum-sealed steel tubs, the chemical synthesis lab he must have had, UV curing.
It speaks to a massive financial backing.
Yeah, and not an impulsive crime. This was like an industrial operation. Planned, clinical.
It points to a killer whose pathology is just centered on commitment and absolute control. And that control extended even to the moment of death itself.
Let's talk about the method of murder, because that ties right back into the whole awakening theme.
The victims were injected with these extremely high concentrations of synthetic epinephrine, pure adrenaline.
Designed to induce a fatal heart attack.
Right, but the profilers concluded it was deliberate to create this maximum state of terror, hyper-awareness right before death.
So they died at the absolute peak of physiological fear.
Yes, and the killer viewed that extreme fear, that terrifying adrenaline rush as, well, as an analogy for the terror of birth, the trauma of being forced out, awakening into life.
God. And the reports say victims like Campbell were forced to watch monitors.
Yeah, showing footage of their own transformation being prepared, confirming their fate just moments before the injection.
Did Markham and Cathy figure out how long he'd been working on this? Was Bacchus truly the first?
Well, they connected the dots backward to one of Cathy's former students, Gabriel Bamford. Died years earlier.
Ruled a suicide or overdose, wasn't it?
Initially, yeah. But the new toxicology, run after the Bacchus case, showed high epinephrine traces. And Bamford was found with a Michelangelo documentary playing and a marked-up copy of Slumbering in the Stone nearby.
So Bamford was the test case. The first successful epinephrine murder, the proof of concept for the awakening.
Seems like it. Establishing the template.
And he tested his theory on someone connected directly to the source of his inspiration, Cathy.
Chilling. Okay, so after Bacchus, which was intense but maybe focused, the sculptor escalates. He moves on to the Pietà.
And this phase, it just reveals the killer's immense resourcefulness and the money behind him.
The complexity just explodes, right?
Completely. To get the paint right, the white paint mixture, which he saw as this sort of sacramental part of the process, he pulls off this incredible theft first.
He stole a whole statue just for paint.
Well, not just for paint. He stole a minor Gambardelli Pietà statue from St. Bartholomew's Church. He needed the actual dust from specific expensive Carrara marble.
To mix into his polymer coating. Exactly. To ensure the texture and color matched what Michelangelo might have used. But the theft also connects directly to the killer's psychology, which we'll get to. That specific statue, it was dedicated to Filomena Manzura.
Wow. Okay, that detail is astounding. He's performing these symbolic rituals.
Using historical materials, historical sites.
Right, yeah.
And the final Pietà composition. It required 4 victims, meticulously composited.
Let's break down the Virgin Mary figure first, because that was deeply disturbing.
A main body, the torso and limbs, that was Cathy's ex-husband, Steve Rogers.
A male body for the Virgin Mary.
Chosen specifically by the killer. To reflect Michelangelo's tendency, to sculpt Mary with a kind of masculine, heroic physique.
But then altered.
Surgically altered. With the breasts of another victim, Karen Canfield. And the head and hands came from a third victim, Esther Muniz.
Just unbelievable. And the Christ figure in her lap.
That was Paul Jimenez, a young male prostitute went by Jim Paulson. His body was carefully posed, bleeding, nailed feet, creating that iconic deposition image.
The sheer audacity. And then he signs it.
Right. The whole thing was displayed at the Temple of Divine Spirit in Echo Point Cemetery, Exeter. And he leaves the signature. The sculptor from Rhode Island made it.
Directly mimicking the original Pietà. Michelangelo only ever signed that one piece.
He was claiming his place, his authorship, his history.
Which, of course, triggers this massive media firestorm, especially when it comes out that Cathy's ex-husband was the core of the Virgin Mary figure.
Suddenly, the academic puzzle becomes this deadly, intensely personal vendetta aimed right at her.
So how did they finally track him? It wasn't just forensics, was it?
Here's where it gets really intellectual again. Markham and Cathy tracked him by decoding the clues he left. Specifically, a theory from Cathy's book about Michelangelo.
The parallel trinity. What is that exactly, and why did it become this killer's Christian box template?
Okay, the parallel trinity is this complex academic idea. It suggests Michelangelo saw the Virgin Mary not just as the mother, but also as the daughter of your son. That's a phrase from the poet Dante.
Suggesting this paradoxical, almost incestuous spiritual link between Mary and Christ.
Exactly. And for Bach, this theory was like confirmation of his own profoundly warped vision of the world. stemming from his own trauma.
So, who is Christian Bach? How does a niche art theory become the motive for violence?
Bach's life was just defined by trauma, severe childhood abuse by his mother, and then her affair with this tennis pro, Damon Manzera.
Who Bach murdered years earlier, the accidental drowning.
Turns out, not so accidental. Bach killed him.
And when Bach saw the Manzera dedication on that Pietà statue he stole?
That's the connection. He sees the dedication to Philomena Manzera related to the man he hated and killed, and he combines that with the parallel Trinity theory from Cathy's book.
And it all fuses together for him.
His childhood trauma gets linked with this sense of divine intellectual purpose. He saw Cathy's analysis as literally the template for his destiny. It confirmed his mission, as he saw it, to free them from slumber and maybe enact some kind of twisted revenge related to his mother.
He weaponized academic theory. Wow. The investigation finally leads Markham and Cathy to Bach's family property, an isolated carriage house.
In East Greenwich, yeah. And inside, they find it. The fully functional, highly sophisticated plastination lab. Everything.
And the confrontation itself.
The sources describe it as brutal. Bach was there, naked, heavily muscled, like he was preparing for his own final artistic statement. He was armed.
But Cathy spots something.
She sees the big stainless steel tub, the one used for plastination, holding the initial chemical prep fluid.
Acetone. Highly corrosive.
Exactly. And in this moment of, I guess, desperation, she weaponizes his own science against him, scoops up the acetone, splashes it right in his eyes.
Causing enough of a diversion.
Enough critical, agonizing pain for Agent Markham, even though he'd been shot, to subdue and finally capture the sculptor.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've looked at this truly unique intersection, right? Intellectual obsession and clinical violence.
A killer who needed an art history book to confirm his motive, and cutting-edge science plastination to actually execute his vision.
His ultimate medium wasn't marble. It was human life, meticulously chosen, prepared, displayed to convey this profoundly disturbed message about awakening.
Yeah, awakening from cultural, psychological, spiritual slumber, as he saw it. It really underscores how deeply certain ideas, even niche academic theories, can be absorbed and just dangerously warped by a disturbed mind looking for validation.
And considering all the evidence gathered after his capture, the sheer time commitment, those 800-plus hours per piece, the money, the chemical expertise discovering an early victim like Gabriel Bamford, the FBI seriously fears the potential body count.
Right, which leaves us with a truly chilling final thought, doesn't it?
How many unnamed, unseen victims did the sculptor create and maybe discard while he was perfecting that plastination technique, hidden away somewhere, before he felt confident enough for the public exhibitions of Bacchus and the Pietà?
The cost of his education in this horrific process,
Yeah.
it was likely immense.
Indeed. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.